Ready to go, picks and bans for game number 2, coming at you between Dignitas and Burrito Esports. It's going to be Burrito in the first pick position this time around, so maybe they could try and take away one of those pressure solo laners from Variety.
Better option to ban away the soul instead of picking it themselves, especially so early in the drafting phase. Dignitas sticking to their guns, banning away the Circuit away from Dzoni. Not too worried about the Thor play. Despite having some really good ultimates, that first blood that QvoFred had under that tier 1 mid tower made him get in a great spot, separating the lead that he had against Dzoni.
So Dignitas in that first pick position, they ban Bellona to make sure that Burrito can't answer back with that if they were to pick Osiris. Burrito do not ban away that pressure solo laner, so now Dignitas have the option of going for the Osiris up against Bellona. But you might see them wait for it here because of Burrito not needing one, but they're going to make sure that Burrito doesn't run that Bellona-Osiris combination in the jungle solo, immediately taking away that pressure solo laner.
Smart play by Dignitas. If it worked for Variety last game, why not secure it now?
Yeah.
They have so many flex opportunities between every single one of their players. So the question doesn't happen with like, do we want Osiris now? It's like, yes, we want Osiris now because everything else doesn't matter.
Right. As long as we get Osiris, we're good. And as long as Trixtank gets Terra, we're probably good as well because so comfortable on this god, as we mentioned already. Dignitas just trying to copy what they did last game, and it ain't broke. Don't fix it.
Don't fix it at all. The global presence from Trixtank was very strong and felt against Burrito Esports. The control that he had was certainly a nuisance against DeathPanter in that mid lane. The soul just did not work for him that game, but going to the Isis in game number 2, different styles between going for the heavy burst damage to now having more utility and control.
Isis and Cernunnos, the 2 picks there for Burrito, and I like this Isis pick for Burrito. As we mentioned, when you're coming into the SPL, what's our identity? You know, what do we do well? And the thing that's, I think, the easiest to get good at is that early game, because you play early game every game you play, right? Sometimes you don't make it to late game. Either you get too far ahead or the enemy gets too far ahead, but you can always practice the early game, and Isis is the queen in terms of that early game pressure. The Morrigan is going to be the pick here for Zyrhoes, so Dignitas basically just trying to run it back.
Doesn't seem that Burrito is really stopping Dignitas from any sort of the last picks that they really had. They're just changing up their own styles, which is good enough. Cernunnos onto Kespainify didn't really have that impact that he would have liked, but by the time the mid-game happened, he was getting dove under that tier 1 tower. He couldn't really have too much control the way he wanted to. He was never really left alone in a 1v1 spot against Arkkyl trying to get that lane dominance. But even if he did, it was Xingwei. Yeah. You're not going to really bully him out too long.
No, and even if you do get the better end of a trade, Arkkyl just backs to base and flies right back in, no problem. Burrito gonna ban away that Camazotz from QvoFred. Love that decision. Clearly too good for them to handle in game 1. Thor the ban here from Dignitas, and despite, as you mentioned, Dzoni not having a ton of success on it in game 1, I like the fact that Dignitas respects that if Dzoni were to fall behind early, that Thor could be a problem.
Absolutely. There's the long distance stun out of that Tectonic Rift is really annoying, especially paired up with the Isis, Spirit Ball, and the Tectonic Rift. Either one of those gods can set up the other. Not only that, banning away the Khepri from Fusify, forcing a more other defensive option out of the Geb.
Nemesis going to be for Qvo, one of his most comfortable picks. Burrito going early game in that mid jungle, man. Isis Thanatos, it's about as early pressure as you can get, especially in terms of damage, but the clear there is phenomenal as well. Geb on the other end is kind of that later, like mid-game, hopefully we get ahead enough that that early game for Geb that is sometimes exploitable never really gets a chance to show, as Dignitas going to finish off their draft with the Ram.
The Ram is one of these safe hunters that you can get. Those astral arrows, you're going to clear the wave every single time. It doesn't really matter who your support is, considering Terra's level 1 is not the strongest. You're balancing that out with the Rama, and once these team fights start happening, that pressure between the Nemesis, whoever she targets with her ultimate, we're going to see Arkkyl go into the sky and try to secure that kill.
Game 2 between Burrito and Dignitas ready to go, and I love this. I love every time someone picks the Morrigan. I'm just thinking about what what Zyrhoes could use that ultimate for. What's going to be the best application? Trixtank is in the middle of literally everyone on Burrito. Kespainify going to find the root. Dzoni's going to be here with the Death Sight soon. It's going to connect. And Zyrhoes is slowed. Blink knockup coming out of Fusify. Trix trying to get out. Arkkyl with the good body blocks, but DeathPanter has that increased movement speed with the Wing Gust, trying to close the distance. Trix so low, trying to get away, but the Death Sight from Dzoni's going to do it, and Trix is going to be first blood. Burrito up early.
I think that he went around trying to ward, but I don't see a ward on the mini-map necessarily. I don't see any wards that he has in his inventory, so he was just kind of scouting out just to see the start coming out of Burrito Esports. A lot of teams have been experimenting with the red buff invade and whatnot, and now that's going to not only hurt Trixtank, but by proxy hurts out Arkkyl.
Yeah, and it helps out Dzoni quite a bit, which by extension hurts out Qvo. You know, you got your jungle Thanatos gets that early first blood. Not only that, but Isis, Geb, and Cernunnos all get assists on that first blood, so that's quite a bit of extra experience and gold for them as well. Burrito off to the start. They certainly wanted to in this game. Trix just being a little bit too aggressive in the enemy jungle.
And that blink knockup from Fusify paying dividends right off the bat, getting true value out of that early game relic. Now, normally we see Trixtank the one that's playing this Geb, finding those clutch blinks. We saw it, I think it was in game number 2 against Elevate, where it was the back off of Trixtank, where Dignitas relied on those blink cataclysms. And in this game, for Burrito, they gotten off to a great start so far. They're looking for more in the solo.
Now Variety's gonna have to box 2. He's in some danger here as DeathPanter starts to make the rotation. Sibi only level 2, but Qvo is able to get out of range of that Spirit Ball Purification Beads, helping him out in that scenario. Still trying to run away. That Death Scythe from Dzoni should be coming up shortly. Ready to go, but instead gonna prioritize the minions, so no second kill for Burrito quite yet.
Not at all, but it's gonna force QvoFred to back on to base, so that means he's gonna miss out on some very crucial farm that Dzoni's gonna pick up in the solo lane, shared up with Sibi, putting the Dignitas jungler even further behind, and you don't really want to be behind against a Thanatos. He is one of these gods that can get a lot of snowball momentum.
Great play there out of Trixtank, laying down the walls, forcing Kespainify to use the Purification Beads. Fusify also decided to use his Blink to make sure that he was safe, despite Dig really using all their cooldowns to try and lock down the Hunter. So 2 relics down on that left-hand side now. Before that first blood, I was going to talk about what Zyrhoes can do on the Morrigan this time around with that Changeling ultimate, and there's just so much creativity there. The double Nemesis ult, incredibly potent on the same target or on 2 different targets, but we could also see Zyrhoes utilize that Circle of Protection from DeathPanter to secure some objectives for Dig.
I think it might even be the option onto Dzoni's Thanatos, because if anyone gets low from the ultimates out of QvoFred and Arkkyl, well, hey, now he's going to go into the form of Thanatos, get that increased movement speed, go into that hovering death, and secure the execute.
There's a lot. I mean, there's always a lot that Morrigan can do. The Rom snipes from a distance.
Yeah.
The second Terra's Blessing. You know, the initiation from Bellona. The Geb shield. There's no end to what the Morrigan can do, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing pros start to really prioritize her. It's like one by one, someone from each team is starting to put the Morrigan into their god pool. Pretty Prime is the Morrigan right now in my mind until proven otherwise. That's the one guy who I absolutely do not want to see if I'm up against them, but every team starts to be getting a little bit more comfortable with this goddess.
And for good reason too, because as a Morrigan player, you have to have one key aspect in mind. You have to have that one go-to god for any situation that's good for both offensive and defensively, and then you have to have a god that you have to have in mind whenever you have enough time to think about the situation and then look to make those transformations. And one of these safe gods that can be both offensive and defensive could be a Trixtank on this Terra.
Absolutely, or Qvo on the Nemesis gives you that shield, the double dash, and of course the ultimate. Qvo in trouble potentially. The Cataclysm catches out the dash, the knockup is good as well, and Qvo was 3 seconds away from being able to use the Purification Beads. Perfect timing there by Burrito, locking down the Dignitas jungler and finding their second kill.
So unfortunate for the jungler out of Dignitas. He forced into the Purification Beads behind the Fire John when he was trying to run away from all this action that Dzoni was presenting his way that he didn't want to be a part of, but this time he was forced into that action, being disrupted from the Cataclysm knockup, nowhere to go. All the control coming out of Burrito Esports, just a small representation of what's to come in these teamfights.
There's plenty of lockdown on this Burrito roster, and especially if you don't have Purification Beads, even Variety could probably fall very quickly off of a Blink Cataclysm, especially if DeathPanter can lay down that Circle of Protection. It's very easy to burst out a Soul later. In that instance, Sibi in some trouble on this right-hand side, totally, but Variety not going to decide to use his ultimate. Sibi had just enough mana to use his.
Perfect timing as well, because you're forcing out the Bellona to back to base as a wave is entering, and there is no teleport for Sibi for another 125 seconds. Variety, if he really wanted to, he could look to freeze this wave completely, trying to basically deny a bunch of golden experience, but instead he's looking to clear this out for good reason, because now he's going to make this rotation to his own blue buff, maximizing his farm.
Fusify went for the blink Cataclysm in mid lane, put a good amount of damage, but not enough. But there's the transformation into QvoFred, the Sunder, and the Nemesis ult. Gonna be good there, but not good enough to knock down Fusify. So Zyrhoes uses his ultimate. Trixtank didn't get a chance to use his just because it's still on cooldown from when QvoFred got picked on the top right.
Variety able to invade against Sibi's blue buff, getting a blue buff of his own, still having that option to get even more gold, about 100 in total. Right around the corner though, Trixtank forced to run away, gets stunned out, but everybody else from Burrito trying to go for the oracles, but Arkyl's right around the corner.
Gonna try and secure him, but they both go Burrito's way. I like the play there from Trixtank, realizing that he was in danger, throws the 2 down at his feet, not only to stop Burrito from charging at him, but gives him that knock-up immunity because of Terra's passive, doesn't get knocked up by Geb's shockwave. So the CC chain gonna be really, really strong against everyone on Dignitas except for that Terra, because the Blink Cataclysm will be good, but the knock-up afterwards is really what usually is the thing that spells kills, wouldn't work against the Terra.
And not only that, despite the threat of the potential stun, just standing in between those rocks is going to slow your movement speed in total, making it very difficult to really chase down Trixtank playing this Terra that just has so much utility. But now, not going for the most greediest build in the world that he's known for, at least in Thursday against Elevate when he went for Lono's Mask, Watcher's Gift, and Travel Shoes. Now he's mixing things up a little bit on the Terra, going for this reinforced shoes.
And just trying to get out of that CC chain. I think that a lot of times when you see the reinforced shoes, it's either because of there's a lot of dot damage and that's going to stack up the reinforced passive very quickly, or that crowd control reduction. And in this case, certainly I think that's what Trixtank is looking for.
That's going to be the key item for a lot of players out of Team Dignitas, not just Trixtank, because Variety diving that backline, he could be locked down very easily as well. And with the execute coming out of Dzoni, despite all the damage absorption that Variety's looking to do, he's not going to be avoiding that execute without Lord of the Afterlife.
QvoFred comes around the back, Geb ultimate immediately onto Dzoni, but he's going to be able to get up into the sky. Fusify healed up because of the Circle of Protection from DeathPanter. Dignitas doesn't find anything on those left side Harpies. That looked like a great fight for them, Toli, but just not enough to secure a kill.
No, not at all, but it was 3 for 2 ultimates. Burrito getting the worst end of that exchange. QvoFred gets spotted out. The Terra's Blessing even being used right at the same time as Cubo commits to that purple buff, not really wanting to go forward in the dual lane, but instead trying to make something happen in the solo.
Uh-oh, Zyrhoes transforms the wrong time, or de-transforms, I should say, and Johnny's gonna make him pay. The Death Scythe is good enough to put number 3 on the board for Burrito. Now they've got the option of playing aggressive on this Gold Fury. QvoFred, unbeknownst to Burrito, is invading on that purple on the wrong side of the map. Now he's gonna come around the back and eat a ton of damage immediately. Cuvo, 1 HP, trying to get away. Jukes out the autos, and now Arkkyl finds the snipes on a Kespainify. Cuvo gets around Dzoni. Finally, Sibi's gonna put him down with that Eagles rally, but it bought enough time for Dig to start to win this fight. Variety finds a double kill. Trixtank still pressuring out DeathPanter, and Sibi, the stun only hits the solo laner as Dignitas dives the tier 2. But Cuvo living for that long allows Arkkyl to make the plays. The 3 snipes onto Kespainify were big all around. Dignitas somehow end up on top.
QvoFred is just the very slippery snake is the way I'm gonna put it there. Just baiting out so many abilities, cooldowns, juking and weaving right behind that rock, behind the Gold Fury. Bought enough time for the rest of his teammates to make this important rotation. Variety securing the kill onto Fusify at the end there. His rotations have been really felt, and that's why Dignitas get that 3 for 1 and the Gold Fury at the 9-minute mark.
And you could really tell how much of a difference the level gap made there for Variety over top of Sibi. Variety level 12, Sibi level 9. Variety was level 11, I believe, at the beginning of that engagement. But either way, Variety was much more impactful than Sibi. QvoFred in a lot of danger here. That Spirit Ball's gonna do it, in fact. DeathPanter secures a nice kill onto the jungler. Can't slip out of that one this time around.
Great silence coming out of Dzoni, preventing the second dash out of QvoFred, which then secured that dev side. Still trying to make something happen under that tier 1 tower. Variety gets executed.
Dzoni with his third kill already. Trix now in the middle of 4. Burrito looking for another kill. He's trying to juke around. Circle of protection, not enough, but Sibi's gonna find another one. Zyrhoes transforms into the Terra to give himself some tankiness and just trying to get away. A nice double stun. Sibi may actually fall here, but no, a good Geb shield coming out of Fusify. He's gonna save the life of his solo, and Johnny's gonna put down Zyrhoes, number 4 for the jungler. Burrito, great juggle of the tower aggro there, Toli. Everyone gets out, and they get 2 kills.
Trying to save that tier 1 tower. Ultimate from QvoFred is gonna poke out Dzoni. Nice little dash, aggressively avoiding the Spirit Ball from DeathPanter. And all it took was one Nemesis jungler to stop 3 members from Burrito Esports, preventing them from getting that 500 gold.
Everyone just so low from Burrito that they can't even take the 3-on-1. Kespainify really the only one who hasn't been a big part of the action so far. 0, 1, and 2. So what you expect from the Hunters, though, that the early game, it's stay in your lane, get your farm, then come up, then show up and really make the impact in the mid to late.
I'm sure Burrito are probably wishing that they had Nike this time around, considering they have 8 kills already on the board. But Bellona being played by Sibi has really made a huge impact in these team fights. Still struggling behind the experience department against Variety. He has lost his blue buff a couple of times now, still 2 levels behind, looking for ways to still catch up and get this second relic.
Variety level 13, gonna back to base and likely finish off that Mystical Mail. Given the opportunity, that's exactly what he's gonna do. That Mystical Mail is such a big power spike. I mean, to only have 2 full items completed by 12 minutes as a solo laner isn't necessarily what you want to be doing, but when your second item is something as impactful as Mystical Mail, it makes it worth it.
It's about 2 1/3, considering he also went for Mark of the Vanguard,
sure.
Right? That 800 gold invested is a pretty big deal, considering there's a lot of damage reduction for just not only abilities, but also any sort of damage over time. You're negating all the ticks coming out of the Bluestone Pendant and all the Wing Gusts as well.
There's the Terra's Blessing as Dignitas try and stop Burrito from doing the Portal Demon. Will be enough to get them off of the objective as Sibi takes a good chunk of his HP, courtesy of Cuvo and Variety on that right-hand side. Does cost Dignitas that Terra's Blessing, though, so slight win for Burrito.
Fusify is forced to use that Geb shield every single time somebody out of his team gets rooted by that Terra. Nice little poke from QvoFred, even double dashing away before the silence can confirm the death scythe this time around. But Burrito needs to be very mindful, because it seems that Trixtank can easily bait out this Geb shield just by rooting somebody in plays, and that could mean go for everyone else out of Dignitas.
Burrito has looked very good in this game, totally 13 minutes in, they're up 5 kills, 8-3. The gold lead, though, is actually slightly in Dignitas' favor. Hasn't been good enough in terms of the farm, as Cuvo in some trouble on this right-hand side. Dzoni went up thinking that there was an execute waiting for him, but Dignitas a little bit too healthy. So where it was Dignitas using that Terra's Blessing to get Burrito off that Portal Demon, that time it was Burrito using not only the Hovering Death, but the Blink Cataclysm out of Fusify as well.
Not able to make anything happen. The Purification Beads wasn't even used from QvoFred. He didn't really feel the danger, but Trixtank feeling a lot of danger. Sibi goes into the Eagles rally, diving the backline.
Kespainify in some trouble. Zyrhoes transforms on this front side into another Osiris. Can't quite find the ultimate, but Arkkyl's on the run on the back. He's gonna fall. DeathPanter with his 3rd kill. Fusify getting low as Variety finds one. Cuvo finds Fusify, and now it's a 3v3. Cuvo finds a slice and dice onto DeathPanter, but not enough to get the kill. Zyrhoes forced into the Aegis, jukes out the Spirit Ball nicely, trying to be on the run. Variety forcing Dzoni back. That tether stun's gonna guarantee the 2. QvoFred finds DeathPanter, and the 3v3 is now a 3v0. Dignitas finds the deicide, evens up this game in terms of the kills a little bit closer, 10-8, but now they're looking to push that gold lead a little higher with this Portal Demon.
Gonna get 750 as a result. What a play from from Dignitas. You know, I thought it was going to be a little questionable for them to start things off because Trixtank got eliminated right off the bat. Arkkyl, he put himself in a position where he dove the backline with his teammates, and then everybody from Burrito turned on him, so he fell right off the bat. But then Fusify with his death, that kind of evens things out because now there's not too many defensive options out of Burrito Esports. There's no knock-up to prevent any sort of damage. There's no Geb shields coming out to keep everybody healthy. And Dignitas' 3v3 was just so strong because there was no hovering death from Dzoni as he used it to begin the engagement.
And there was, the Bellona is so good at engaging fights, much better than Osiris in that instance, and also disengaging fights with her ultimate, but variety on this Osiris was all over the place in that last team fight. He secured the kill on the Dzoni. I believe he got another one as well. Now up 3 levels on Sibi, and in my mind, that 3v3 goes Dignitas' way because variety was just more effective than Sibi. Now, you can make the argument that a lot of that is because of the characters that they're playing, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what the reasoning is. It's just that variety had the better team fight.
And you got to give a lot of credit to Zyrhoes as well, transforming into variety, taking advantage that variety is the highest level in the game with a really good amount of itemizations in his kit, going for this mystical mail, finishing off the pestilence is going to give him more magical defense, and not only that, juking out those abilities against DeathPanter, he missed out a very crucial spirit ball right around that speed buff.
Variety still taking the fight to Sibi on that right side, getting him very low. Sibi's gonna ult away, but now he's in trouble. Sunder comes out from Sibi, and that's actually gonna force Variety back out of his tower, so Sibi lives, but again, it's Variety getting the better end.
Just there's no stopping this solo laner out of Dignitas variety. Doesn't matter what god he's playing. He'll always look for ways to extend the lead, and doesn't really matter what god you're playing as well, because he'll find these aggressive little openings to force out your ultimate, and then even your defense, the offensive relic that has to be turned into a defensive one instead.
And there, like we mentioned, Sibi's done a good job in these team fights overall, has been engaging very nicely with that Eagles rally. He's sitting at 2-1 and 4, has cleaned up 2 crucial kills for Burrito, but Variety's been big. A big play there out of QvoFred. DeathPanter just straight up gone. Had beads, had Aegis, had a Geb shield ready for him, but none of that in time as Dig finds a crucial pick on that bottom left side.
Fusify, instead of finding the shield, he tried to find the Blink Cataclysm, but the rest of his teammates weren't necessarily on the same page. Starting up the Gold Fury, second one of the game. Dignitas looking to try to get it.
And now QvoFred ultimates onto Fusify. Snipes come through from Arkkyl, but it's not enough to save his life for the moment. Finally finds him. Dzoni trying to find Zyrhoes, but just out of range with that hovering death. Zyrhoes gonna use his Aegis as he's transforming into that Osiris. That detransformation actually jukes out Johnny's Death Scythe, and Zyrhoes gonna live.
Surprisingly enough, though, Dignitas were able to get the Gold Fury as well earlier on. Not really worried about the damage being dealt onto Zyrhoes. They were willing to sacrifice the mid laner just to get the trade, the better trade of it, but finding the survival of the mid laner means that they could still put pressure in the duel lane.
Sunder from Trixtank onto Dzoni, and look around the back. Here comes Qvo. Dzoni no ultimate. Dzoni nowhere to go. And QvoFred is there underneath that tier 1 tower on the left. Sibi has decided that he's had enough with dealing with Variety. Variety's on the left. I'm going to be on the right. Sibi put some pressure onto the tier 2, but not enough to knock it down.
That's what you have to do whenever you're behind, whether it's a team or an individual player. Arkkyl with a really nice Aegis preventing all the damage out of DeathPanter. Wingus coming out, but Arkkyl is not deterred. He's still boxing, not really having a lifesteal available in his itemizations, but just going to trade on poke instead.
Variety forces out an Aegis there from Kespainify, courtesy of that ultimate. As you mentioned, what a beautiful Aegis by Arkkyl in that mid lane. Perfectly timed because he doesn't have the purification beads, and I like the decision from Burrito to try and pick him because of that. There was no one around, and Arkkyl didn't have the beads, but just a good play out of the Hunter saves his own life.
They don't even have Blink available for Fusify, so it just came off cooldown now, instead just like straight up walking up to Arkkyl, but Arkkyl didn't really respect the damage coming out of Burrito, and for good measure. It's only level 11 Geb, the level 14 Isis, doesn't even have Spear of Desolation finish, and we're looking at the choices out of Zyrhoes. Not only does he have Spear of Desolation finish, but Obsidian Shard to boot.
Runeforged Hammer here for Kespainify in that 4th item slot. It's an item that we've seen a lot of assassins and warriors pick up, but not so much hunters here, Tully. How do you feel about it on the hunter?
It's interesting because, like, yeah, you get crowd controlled, you're gonna take more damage of whoever you crowd control. So that Wild Hunt alone could proc that Runeforged Hammer, and I think that's what he's going for.
Trixtank has to use his ultimate to try and get away, but now it's Dignitas trying to turn it around. Sibi eating the autos from Variety, what I'm sure feels like the millionth time this game for him. A little bit of poke on the Trixtank courtesy of the Death Scythe from Dzoni, but not enough to really dissuade him. Of course, Terra does have that Monolith sustain as well. Dignitas just holds Burrito in this mid lane, allowing Zyrhoes to pick up some solo farm on the right.
Still looking for more plays. Dignitas grouped up between the mid and the solo lane. Fire Giant not really being looked at because Arkkyl is getting the Portal Demon instead, while the rest of his teammates is kind of feigning pressure. They don't really want to commit under either of these tier 2 towers. They just want to make sure that they have the mobility of this portal and that little sweet 750 gold.
They don't even need Arkkyl here, totally. DeathPanter's on the run and nowhere to go. Variety with his 5th. Zyrhoes finds his first onto Sibi as well. Now Fusify in the middle of everybody from Dignitas. Good damage coming out of Kespainify, and a great Cataclysm allows QvoFred to get executed by Dzoni. Fusify jukes out the 3rd shot from Arkkyl. He's going to be safe, and so Burrito answer back, finding QvoFred, but losing 2 in the process.
2 in the process, and Fusify having to retreat as well. Variety not going to eat that Death Scythe, but still having the portal available for Dignitas. As long as they back on out, they could reposition themselves to look for more.
Take a look at this team fight recap. Yes, Dignitas end up on top in terms of kills and damage done, but with 1 kill, Burrito get more gold and experience than Dignitas do with 2, and that's the benefit of being behind. There aren't a lot of them, but if you can find even 1 kill, you're getting more for that than the team that's ahead.
The 1 comeback mechanic here for Smite to be able to find ways back into the game. Not only that, the respawn timer for QvoFred just now coming back into the thick of things, whereas DeathPanter and Sibi have been around for a little bit, still trying to find farm here. Looking at the level disparity, Kespainify
gets stunned by Zyrhoes, but now he's trying to turn it around. The autos almost did it. Zyrhoes does find the kill, but Kespainify was 1 auto away from turning that right on its head. So lazy back there hurting him in that scenario.
And Runeforged Hammer you were talking about before, it has a lot of physical defense and health, but you're not really getting that magical protection that you really need to survive some of the action. Trying to survive against QvoFred is a nice idea, but I would have much liked to see him get Fatalis for mobility instead.
DeathPanter has to use his own ultimate. Fusify used the Cataclysm as well. Big heal coming out of the circle of protection. Make sure the DeathPanter is going to be okay. And now Sibi's looking for Trixtank. The Eagles rally and the Sunder come through, but it's not enough. And now QvoFred shows up around the back. Snipes coming through. DeathPanter's going to fall. Arkkyl finds it from a distance. Now Fusify on the run. Nowhere to go for him either. QvoFred gets his 6th of the game, 16 in total for Dignitas.
And Variety was left chilling alone in the soul lane, grabs a tier 2 tower of his own. Dignitas, what looked to be a tied game about 5 to 8 minutes ago, now has just been screaming Dignitas' name all over.
All of a sudden, it's a 9,000 gold lead, and Dignitas trying to push that closer to 10. They find this tier 2 tower, or the Gold Fury, which is available. Dig has already gotten 2 Gold Furies on the game. Variety's still on this right-hand side, not needing to join his team quite yet, because he has that teleport ready to go whenever it is time to join the squad, but doesn't need him yet because Burrito is giving up their 3rd Gold Fury.
Level 20 for the Osiris out of Dignitas. Really big impact out of Variety every single game, and nothing's really changed here in this game number 2 against Burrito Esports. He's just been looking very quiet though compared to his other games, where he's just casually bullying out Sibi, stealing away some of these blue buff Zeros, gonna find the stun onto Fusify. This is a really bad spot for him, but nobody else from Dignitas really to help.
Yeah, luckily for him, because that rollout got caught by Zyrhoes, who used his ultimate to transform into QvoFred. Throw that Nem ult onto Dzoni. That's why we saw him ult away defensively. Zyrhoes looking very, very comfortable on the Morrigan, especially in the later stages.
Still looking for something. Dignitas is grouped up around Fire Giant. Now is the time to pull the trigger around this late game objective. Trixtank is going to zone out Dzoni back to the left side of the map, as the rest of Dignitas looking to put pressure down the mid, a little bit down the soul lane as well, as Variety gets 1 more wave in. Sibi's going to get slowed a little bit longer, but no one from his team is there to help out.
So this time around, Burrito still very far behind in gold, but the XP difference is not nearly as drastic as it was in game 1. The Zyrhoes tries to find another stun, just chomps down DeathPanter, finds a kill on a Dzoni, a quick 2 for 0 in that mid lane. That stealth again coming up big. Arkkyl gonna find Fusify in the jungle. Sibi stunned out. He's forcing the Eagles rally, but I don't think that's gonna be enough to get him away from the charging Dignitas. Roll forward is good. Sibi's gonna fall here, courtesy of the snipes from Arkkyl. That's his 5th on the game. Clean 20 for Dignitas. Well, all the while, Zyrhoes and Qvo, they found those 2 kills in mid and immediately turned their attention to the Fire Giant.
Zyrhoes' mechanics has just been on point every single time. He goes into the stealth form. He could have stunned out Dzoni. He could have stunned out DeathPanter. He says, no, I'm going to go behind DeathPanter and stun out both of them at the same exact time.
Arkkyl just missing a couple auto attacks that would have spelled certain doom for Kespainify. Now trying to get away, went pretty overextended. Johnny's gonna find the stun here and the death scythe. Aegis comes through, but not in time to save him from that damage. Great spear bow coming out of DeathPanter is a dozen kills for Burrito now. Circle of Protection comes down. This is gonna do quite a bit of work here, but the anti-heal coming out of Variety shuts down that play out of DeathPanter. That's gonna notch 2 for the Soul Laner, 7 in total, and now he's looking for more. Variety throws that ultimate, or excuse me, Qvo onto Fusify, but Variety's the one on top of him. Fusify with a good Cataclysm. Variety falls after Qvo finds Fusify, and Sibi trying to chase him down, does clean up Qvo with the Sunder.
Zyrhoes down the mid lane, neglecting the team fight, trying to get the first Phoenix of the game, does secure it for himself. Morrigan, doesn't really matter what mage you are in the late game, you do a lot of in-hand damage. Zyrhoes still grouped up, looking for the stun.
Finds it on a Kespainify, the 2 right afterwards, the Dark Omen, and 1 auto attack's gonna do it. That stealth lasting so long there for Zyrhoes. Getting that extra movement speed as well allows him to close the gap and get there in time.
A little sloppy from Dignitas to close things out. They were grouped up a little bit too eagerly around the right side Phoenix before they fully back to base with full health, full mana, and more items to boot. But instead, Zyrhoes is like, all right, we're not winning this team fight by playing like that. I'm gonna stay objective-minded and grab the first Phoenix. Dignitas still playing really collective together.
What a play by Variety there on the bottom right side. That Circle of Protection from DeathPanter was massive. I mean, it was fully charged. He's got a lot of points into it. He's got that route up to Hootie. That was going to be a big damage, but also a big heal onto 3 members. But Variety puts on the 100% anti-heal from the Lord of the Afterlife, preventing that burst heal from coming through. Speaking of burst.
Oh my god, 2-shot. Just absolutely deleted. DeathPanter, nowhere to go.
Morrigan, man, in the late game, it's
Fire Giant.
It's gross.
Fire Giant buff with Zyrhoes.
With red as well. The Polynomicon coming in, and Zyrhoes looking for yet another target to find with that 3 aspects. Not going to be able to find anyone this time, but either way, Burrito certainly on the back foot, and DeathPanter, while he's had some really good accuracy with the Spirit Balls, Circle of Protections have been good, like I mentioned. It's just so difficult to play Isis into a composition like this. You can see why 7 deaths for the mid laner is the right side Phoenix not lasting for very long. Fusify finds forward that Blink Cataclysm, and Johnny was ready for the follow-up, but it's actually Fusify who eats the follow-up from Dignitas. That's going to be 1 kill. You can make that 2 here, in fact, as soon as Johnny falls to Trixtank, and Dignitas marching in. Arkkyl finds DeathPanter. Sibi's not gonna last for long, even with that Circle of Protection down for him. Team Dignitas in 28 minutes find 29 kills, and they're gonna find the 2-0 victory. A quick 6 points to start the summer split.
You know, it wasn't the cleanest game in the world for Team Dignitas, but they're able to close out the game in almost the same amount of time against Burrito Esports. Their late game is so scary out of Dignitas. If I'm the members of Obey Alliance, Energy, Team Rival, Enix, I'm looking at Team Dignitas and studying them.
For sure, and I'm really looking at Zyrhoes on this Morrigan because it's different from the way Pretty Prime plays it. Pretty Prime just blows you away with his ultimate usage all the time. Just every time he seems like he's finding the right character and finding the right picks. But come late game, Zyrhoes is a nightmare on that Morrigan.
It's not only the Morrigan, it's the Soul. Like, it's any
Sure.
mage that has a lot of scaling, it seems, that can really take advantage of a lot of these magical power items. He loves to go full glass cannon, but he'll also play a little bit more utility base whenever he goes into this Morrigan, even playing more aggressive with other options such as the Camazotz or the Nemesis.
Very impressive play out of all of Team Dignitas. That's going to do it for our first set of the day. We're going to throw to a quick break, but we'll be right back with more SPL.